Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're zeroing in on something pretty fundamental for English learners.
Which is?
Thinking in English. Right from the very beginning.
Right. We've been digging into that excerpt from the Real Life English podcast.
Exactly. And our mission really is to pull out some practical things listeners can actually do to start thinking in English, like immediately.
Yeah, no matter what level they're at currently. And also maybe understand why this approach is, well, supposedly better for actual real-world communication.
Okay, so this real-life English perspective,
Yeah.
what's really striking is the idea that you don't have to wait.
Right. You don't need to hit some, intermediate or advanced level before you start engaging internally with English.
It's about starting that direct connection right away, from day one.
Day one, which sounds ambitious, maybe.
It does, because, the usual way,
Mm-hmm.
it often involves that mental back and forth.
The translation trap.
Yeah. English comes in, you translate to your native language, think of a reply, translate that back into English.
It's exhausting just describing it.
Exactly. But this excerpt, it really challenges that. It pushes for a more direct pathway.
And they mention real English specifically.
Yes. What does that actually mean in this context, do you think?
Well, I reckon they mean the English people genuinely use, idioms, phrasal verbs, maybe less formal grammar, the unstressed stuff you hear on the street.
Not just the perfect sentences from a textbook.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which leads to the question, how do you start thinking in that kind of English if you're, just starting out?
And the source hints at something simple, right? Labeling.
Yeah, like seeing a chair and your first thought is chair, not whatever chair is in your first language.
So you're building, direct mental links, cutting out the translation middleman entirely.
Exactly. And interestingly, the point seems to be that this internal English doesn't need to be grammatically perfect at first.
Okay, that lowers the pressure a bit.
It does. It's more about creating that automatic association, fostering an intuitive feel for the language.
So thinking in English, even in really basic terms, helps you absorb the language's natural rhythm and structure.
Organically, yes. Rather than trying to force English into the grammatical box of your native language, it should lead to more sort of automatic processing over time.
Right. So for anyone listening, the message is you don't need to wait until you feel fluent to start doing this.
Definitely not. You can start small, now.
Look around the room right now and just mentally name 5 things in English. Table, lamp, window.
Pen, computer. Simple. And if you think about language acquisition more broadly, doing this creates a kind of mini immersion environment.
Even if you're not physically in an English-speaking country, it's like having a language lab inside your own head.
A personal language lab, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So wrapping up the core idea from this real-life English material.
It's pretty clear. Start thinking in English as soon as possible.
Move away from relying on translation. Aim for that direct, natural interaction.
And the focus on real, unstressed English is key here, too.
Why specifically unstressed?
Well, it suggests that if you train your brain to think directly in the way native speakers actually naturally talk, often quickly, with reduced sounds, you'll get much better at understanding them in real conversations.
Okay. That makes sense. So it helps both production and comprehension down the line.
It should, yeah.
Yeah.
It aligns your internal processing with external reality, so to speak.
So the main insight from our deep dive today, thinking in English isn't some far-off goal.
No, it's a tool you can start using right now, today, to make your learning more effective.
It shifts things from just, studying grammar rules.
To actually using and internalizing the language in a more natural, integrated way.
Right. Okay, so on that note, let's leave our listeners with something to chew on.
A provocative thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just consider this. What if you consciously tried shifting your internal monologue into English? Maybe just for 5 minutes a day.
Or even simpler, just doing that labeling thing we talked about whenever you notice objects around you.
How might doing that consistently change your whole relationship with English? Could it actually speed up your path to fluency?
What tiny practical step could you take today to start building that English thinking habit?
Something to mull over. Give some thought. Say, when you meet someone new in English.
Yeah, the absolute basics.
Exactly. Think about it. Maybe you're traveling or meeting people online. Could be a new job where English is the main language, or, you're just curious.
Right.
Knowing how to just say hello and introduce yourself, well, that's where it all starts.
It really is.
And you shared some interesting resources, examples, really, And our goal today is to kind of pull out the key stuff from these initial chats.
Yeah, distill it down.
So you feel, informed, confident maybe, without getting bogged down in too much detail.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, I think, about these greetings is they're more than just words. They sort of set the tone, don't they, for everything that comes after. It's like the very first step in building any kind of connection.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. We looked at this little example, didn't we? A quick scene. Anna and Ben meeting in a cafe. It seems like a really good illustration of how a simple chat gets off the ground.
It is. And notice how quickly and smoothly they do it. Those first steps of getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Almost instantly, you have names, where they're from.
Yeah.
It's all out there.
Right. Anna starts it off pretty direct. Hi, my name is Anna. What's your name? And there's that little pause. You almost hear it.
Yeah, like an invitation.
Right. For Ben to reply, maybe repeat her name, and then Ben says, hello, Anna. I'm Ben. Nice to meet you. That phrase, nice to meet you, pops up straight away. It feels almost like automatic, standard practice.
It does, doesn't it? Nice to meet you. It's kind of like a verbal handshake.
Oh, good way to put it.
Yeah, just a standard way to acknowledge the intro and signal, a positive feeling about meeting. It's a small phrase, but it does a lot socially. It smooths the way.
Totally. And Anna mirrors it right back. Nice to meet you, too. So that reinforces that friendly beginning. Then she keeps it going, asks, where are you from? Which feels like the next logical step.
It really is. Asking about someone's background, where they come from, it's just, well, it's human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're kind of looking for connections or maybe shared experiences or sometimes just, a bit more info to place the person.
Makes sense.
And Ben's reply, I'm from Canada. How about you? That shows really good conversational skill.
Yeah, that little bit on the end. How about you? So simple.
That's so effective.
Right. It keeps it balanced. It basically says, okay, I shared. Now I'm interested in you.
Precisely.
So Anna answers, I'm from Brazil. Do you live here now? Which shows she was actually listening, and wants to know more about his situation now.
Exactly. She's not just sort of ticking boxes. She's engaged, wants to understand his context. And Ben replies, yes, I study English here. Do you study too? Again, mirroring the question.
And finding common ground.
Yep. That shared interest, studying English.
It's like a little dance this back and forth, question, answer, question back. Then Anna suggests, yes, let's practice together sometime. Which is, pretty proactive and friendly.
Yeah.
Especially since they're both learners.
It's a really nice gesture, isn't it? Connection, mutual support. And Ben's reply is positive too. Great idea. See you later, Anna. Keeps it light, open-ended.
Yeah. And they wrap it up with those standard polite goodbyes. Ben says, see you later, Anna. And then Anna finishes with, bye, Ben. Have a nice day. It all feels, well, comfortable, polite.
Yeah.
And they managed to swap key info really efficiently.
It's quite remarkable, actually, how much social information gets packed into so few words.
Yeah.
We get names, where they're from, and this key shared thing, studying English, all in just a handful of lines.
Okay, so let's maybe zoom in on a couple of those key phrases from that cafe chat. Nice to meet you, obviously a big one.
Definitely.
We said it's polite, but is there, more to it than just manners?
Oh, absolutely. Nice to meet you isn't just ticking a politeness box. It's really that first step in building a social connection. Think of it like we said, that verbal handshake. It signals you're open to actually engaging more. Like in the example, hi, I'm John, nice to meet you. It nearly always comes right after the names.
Right.
It's sort of expressing positive anticipation for what comes next in the chat.
Like saying, okay, I'm open to this interaction. Makes sense. Now, what about when Ben said, I'm from Canada. How about you? That little add-on.
Yeah, how about you?
Seems pretty vital for keeping things moving.
Totally vital. How about you? Looks simple, but it's super effective for keeping the conversation flowing. It's a direct invitation for the other person to share, right? So it doesn't become just one person talking.
Yeah, avoids the interview vibe.
Exactly. Like the example, I'm 25. How about you? It just encourages that back and forth, shows you're actually interested in them, not just broadcasting your own stuff.
That makes perfect sense. It's a subtle way to show you value their input. Okay, then there's practice. When Anna said, let's practice together sometime. Seems obvious, but maybe in a language learning situation, it has a bit more significance.
I think it does. Practice here really points to the active, intentional part of learning a language.
Yeah.
It's moving past just, listening or reading. It emphasizes needing to use the language to get better, to build confidence. And suggesting, let's practice English. That's a proactive step.
Doing it together.
Yeah, towards shared learning and building those practical skills.
The materials also mentioned visual cues like shaking hands for nice to meet you or thinking of a globe for where are you from. How do visuals like that actually help?
Well, visuals tap into different parts of your brain.
Right.
It makes the learning more multisensory, so
Right.
it sticks better. A handshake is a physical action. It embodies meeting someone, so it creates a real, tangible link to the phrase, nice to meet you.
I see.
And similarly, a globe just instantly brings up the idea of different places, countries, origins, makes the question, where are you from, feel more concrete, easier to sort of
Right.
grab onto.
Right. Different hooks for memory. Okay, now let's turn it over to you listening. Time to actively engage a bit with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, get involved.
We want to give you a chance to actually try these phrases out, like right now. Think of it as your chance to really make it stick.
This is where the learning really becomes yours, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
one thing to listen,
Right.
but actually doing it, participating, that's key for making it part of you.
Okay, so a couple of prompts for you.
Yeah.
Ready? First one. What's your name? Go on, take a little pause right now. Actually, say your name out loud. Just to yourself is fine.
Okay.
Do it. Okay. Second one. Where are you from? Same thing. Quick pause. Answer verbally.
Uh-huh.
And last one, just a bit of spoken practice. Say, nice to meet you. Go ahead. Give it a try. Say it out loud.
Yeah, this kind of immediate use really reinforces what you just heard,
Yeah.
helps build that muscle memory for these key phrases.
Yeah.
It's about taking it from just understanding it passively to being able to actively use it.
Definitely. Okay, now let's shift gears just a little. Let's think about the cultural side of greetings,
Ah, interesting.
because it's fascinating how these simple things can actually be quite different depending on where you are.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing how deep these rituals run in a culture.
Mm-hmm.
They carry a lot of unspoken rules and expectations.
So the sources mentioned the U.S. and Canada. Apparently a handshake is pretty standard for a first meeting.
Yeah, quite common.
But then with friends, or more casually, it's more like just a smile or a wave. That seems, well, fairly straightforward.
Yes, the handshake there often signals a bit more formality, respect, especially when you first meet.
Right.
Whereas the smile or wave shows things are more relaxed. You already have that familiarity. It's about mashing the formality to the situation.
Okay. Now, compare that to Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Things can be a bit different there.
Mm-hmm.
It's apparently not unusual to get hugs, or maybe a kiss on the cheek as a greeting, even meeting for the first time.
Exactly. That signals a different approach to sort of personal space and physical contact from the get-go.
Yeah, definitely different from a formal handshake.
Right. In many parts of Brazil, those warmer, more physical greetings are just seen as friendly, open, even right at the start. It reflects more of a cultural focus on, closeness, personal connection.
And that brings up a really good point for everyone listening. Just take a second to think.
Mm-hmm.
What's normal in your culture?
Yeah, good question.
How do people usually greet each other when they first meet? What about with friends? It's actually really insightful to compare these things, see how much culture shapes even these very first interactions.
And it helps build that wider awareness, doesn't it, of different communication styles around the world. Helps you appreciate there isn't just one right way to say hello.
Yeah.
And understanding those differences can be, well, really valuable if you're interacting across cultures.
Definitely. So just to kind of wrap things up a bit, in this deep dive, we've really gone through the absolute basics. Saying hello, introducing yourself.
Asking where someone's from.
Right, and those key polite bits that start a conversation. Hopefully you're feeling a bit clearer on it now, maybe a little more confident using them.
And if you think about the bigger picture, really getting these fundamental building blocks down, well, it opens up so much more, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, it allows for more meaningful, more complex conversations later on in English. These simple phrases, they're the foundation you build everything else on. Stronger connections start here.
That's a great way to look at it. Consider this. These tiny phrases, they really can open up a whole world. They're the starting line for new chats, new relationships, maybe new opportunities, travel, online friends, work, just meeting someone new down the street.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to mull over.
Okay.
How could really having these first steps down, these basic English greetings, how could that actually empower you in a specific situation you might face? Think about one particular scenario, maybe upcoming travel, maybe joining an online group where knowing how to confidently greet someone and introduce yourself could genuinely make a difference for you. What could that first interaction unlock?